Hello everyone, this is Brian, and welcome back to Twilight Struggle Play the Experts, a game where I play the experts and you see how bad I did. Last time we found ourselves an opponent rated 1890 something, and got a game going. We did the turn zero thing, and I completely failed to out-psych him in the little turn zero card play, rock, paper, scissors thing. But then we moved into turn one, and I got a pretty interesting hand that let me control the DEFCON status kind of through the the very first turn of the early war. And we achieved a map position that was at least, I would say, non-disastrous and had some threats for him. He's got some problems in Asia. We've got the potential to do some interesting things in the Middle East and Europe. So, we've got the whole map kind of in play. And today we are ready to move into turns 2 and 3 and see how the rest of the early war goes. So let's jump in right now. So everybody had enough military ops, nobody lost any points. And let's see, DEFCON goes to 3, wah, 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 and it's headline phase of turn 2. Let us look at our brand new hand. Okay, I see some good cards here, cards we want to see, and some of them are good even though they're bad, as it were. Good because we hold some of his important events. So we got de-Stalinization, or de-Stal as it were. That is one of his best possible events in the whole game. It lets him essentially teleport 4 points of influence to basically anywhere on the map. So any country that I don't control, he can just slam random guys in. And so it's how he spreads his horrid communist ideologies to places like Africa and South America that he might not otherwise have a way to get to, because you can only put influence in places where you kind of already touch with influence. That's the domino effect at work. But see, once he gets his minions over there, then he could just start spreading out from them and domino and everything, and it would be horrible. So that one is not only, it's good that we have it, but it's gonna not get played this turn, because so next turn the deck is gonna reshuffle at the beginning of the turn, and so and it won't reshuffle again after that until at least turn 7. So that is, that means that he can't, if I can hold this until next turn and then I can just send it to the space race, it will just be gone until at least turn 7 and maybe longer. And so essentially by then it probably won't matter as much anymore. So I'm very happy about that. We don't see the Berlin blockade card, so he may well have it. And if he has it, he is almost certainly going to try to play it at the end, because that makes us have to discard a 3 card or higher, or we lose everything we have in West Germany. Not extra optimum, especially in a game where it looks like we might be just kind of trying to hold on to some little foothold in Europe. So we want to make sure we have a card ready for that. And the thing is, he would normally be able to force de-Stalinization out of our hand with that, except that he gave us the China card. So we have an extra card to play, even if he blockades us. And I may actually have to discard some other card. I'm not going to plan on de-Stalinization being the one that's discarded to blockade. It may have to be NORAD or even containment, which is a great event, but it's not as good as sending de-Stalinization to Siberia for most of the rest of the game. So anyway, that is de-Stalinization. Then we have Vietnam Revolts, which would, it's a great card early for him because it plops him right into Vietnam, exactly where we sort of don't want him, right in the middle of Asia, where right now we're kind of racing through Asia. And then for the rest of the turn, it gives him a +1 ops to every card he uses all in Southeast Asia. So my plan for that is that's the card I'm going to play on my very last action round after all his turns are done. So he won't ever get the +1, and by the time he gets it, I plan to have Laos, Cambodia, and Thailand completely plugged up. So then let's look at the actual good cards. I had been thinking of containment as a headline here, increase all my cards by 1, but it's increase all your cards by 1 to a max of 4. So I've got these 2 4 cards, and I've got a scoring card. So that would be like 3 cards that wouldn't be affected by containment. So containment may, if I'm lucky, I may manage to hold it yet another turn and headline it on turn 3. If I'm unlucky, I may have to discard it to blockade. But we have another card that has a similar and even more awesome effect, and that is the Red Scare Purge, one of the best early cards. And that lets us decrease every one of his cards by 1 to a minimum of 1. And he'll hate that, and I'm totally headlining it because of exactly that reason. And then we got Independent Reds, basically useless. It's just going to be a 2 ops card for us. NORAD, it's great when, I like it when he has to play NORAD, but like playing a 3 ops card for the event and then having to put 2 guys in Canada and then just hoping he doesn't draw Quagmire in a couple turns and cancel the whole thing. I don't know. I'm just not a play NORAD for the event guy usually. So I'm probably playing that for ops or discarding it to the blockade. And then there's the Mighty Marshall Plan, the big kahuna of adding 7 influence to Europe, which would, sounds great until you realize that some of the influence would be in Europe, wouldn't be very useful. It would be in places that wouldn't be as useful. But it would help. I mean, it would substantially increase my chances of not getting perpetually dominated in Europe if I can manage to play that for the event. But if I need 4 pipe-hitting ops to do something important, with the momentum, as the momentum goes, then, that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to play it for ops. Now, we got this Mideast scoring card, which it's kind of a liability to have to be the one that plays it. It's good to control the timing of it, but it's, Middle East hangs right in the balance. I mean, it's too bad that we don't dominate, or I would totally just headline it right now and try to, wickle out a free couple of points. But we're going to have to carefully manage the Middle East scoring card situation here. But hopefully that means we can get out of this turn without him dominating us in the Middle East. And that, honestly, for the U.S. in the early war is good. Getting out with no bad guy Middle East domination. I mean, we dream of dominating ourselves, but not going to happen. Not going to happen. Probably not. If Nasser, doesn't come, then that will be a thing. All right, and he has in fact headlined Nasser. Well, that's too bad, but at least it's, now he's out. So he utterly wipes us, and he is then gonna use duck and cover to go into France. So that actually costs him 3 points. And it reduces the DEF CON to 2. Wah, wah, wah. And it does mean that he didn't get a coup, so he doesn't have any military ops either. Normally, it would be locked down here at DEF CON 2, and I wouldn't get any coup, and he'd already have military ops points, so I'd end up losing 2 points if I didn't come up with some weird way to get military ops. So that's interesting. I mean, that's why he made a big investment, but he has plugged up France for now, and he knows I can't start harassing him with the Truman Doctrine until at least next turn, by which point he'll probably be all overprotected in there and stuff. So, he's definitely, we won't be dominating him in Europe. He might be dominating us in Europe, and that is where Europe hangs, which is, understandable. I mean, if I was him, I'd probably do that. He managed to. Now, I mean, it was a good little headline headline combo. I mean, he's probably sad about the 3 points he gave us, but he got positionally in both the Middle East and Europe. Those were big, important positional moves for him. I approve of his moves because he's cut us off from Libya in the Middle East. So, he currently dominates. And now I can't play the Middle East scoring card without just giving him a bunch of points back. So we have some work cut out for us. But our way is clear in Asia, and I guess I'm trying to figure out how to stave off domination here. I don't really want to just pile 4 points into Israel while it only has one adjacent friend. Let's see. Well, all right, yeah, that's good. We will fill up. All right, socialist governments, he's filling up Libya. And okay, so he's threatening again to dominate. So we're taking, we're going to go ahead and take Jordan to tie him on total countries. He's ahead of us in battlegrounds, but we have the same number of total countries, so he doesn't dominate. So he's going to play NATO, which is actually going to activate. Oh, and look at the big, expensive brain on Brad. Well, 3. He got his -1. So that's another reason we played Warsaw Pact earlier, is that by getting Warsaw Pact established, that meant that if he played NATO, then NATO activates. So that means he's no longer going to be able to realign or coup in Europe. So his chances of actually, winning a European victory controlling all the battlegrounds kind of took a substantial, they're ebbing. It's very unlikely that he could achieve a victory because he can't do some of the nastier little maneuvers, getting DEFCON to 5 and suddenly realigning us out of those things that, where he's got us surrounded with all those red neighbors. And that also makes the special relationship with the United Kingdom even more valuable because it lets us blam 2 points anywhere in Western Europe and scores us 2 points. So we certainly hope that he or we will be seeing that card early and often now that NATO is in effect. But so he thought it was worth, man, the Gulf states they are just not even a battleground. But see, he had to untie the country count to go in there. And of course, he couldn't just seize Israel because of the Red Scare purge. The Red Scare, he doesn't have any card he can play that would generate 4 ops. And, if he had stuck 3 in there, he probably realizes I would almost certainly just immediately blow out the Middle East card. So he's trying to force it, I don't know. Does he think he can force a Middle East domination? It doesn't seem like it. I guess if we played less than 4 into Israel, he'd have he could have a little Arab-Israeli war and he'd have a 1 in 6 chance of taking it. But I think this is just going to be one of those situations that, like I said, Marshall Plan would have been good, but not getting dominated in the Middle East is the problem we're working on right now. So now we've locked it down. All right, here he is with blockade. I would have thought that would have come a little bit later in the turn, just to kind of give me a chance to make the most possible mistake. So it makes me wonder what he feels like he has to need to do on the last turn, which is interesting. Maybe he has some, obligations in his hand he's got to get to, or something that's even worse to play early than this, although usually that card would be containment. So anyway, containment's a great card, but hey, see you around in the mid-war containment, because we do not want to give up destabilization. All right, so there is Middle East being scored for a big nothing burger, which we will just have to call an American victory and turn our mind to other affairs. But hey, we didn't get dominated, and we're up 4 points on the scoreboard. That's pretty good for the U.S. in early war. That's not bad. All right, so so he has found his way how to avoid a problem with the CIA. He has created the CIA, which of course is the classic, Soviet DEFCON suicide card, because what it does, it shows me his hand and then it gives me one op during his turn. And if I were able to use that op to do a coup in a battleground, it would lower the DEFCON to 1, starting a nuclear war. And he would lose because it would be his fault because because it happened in his turn. So, and it's a 1-op card, so he can't send it to the space race usually. And so, yeah. And so he could have used UN intervention to kind of point it out of his hand and get the 1-op and not have any problems. But he figured out an even cleverer way, for certain values of clever, which is that, we didn't have anything in any of the mid-war battlegrounds. He's got nothing in Africa, nothing in South America, and nothing in Central America. If I had gotten the Fidel card, I would have played it intentionally to force him to have influence over there, so he couldn't have done this to me. But he has managed to safely do it. There are no battlegrounds I am allowed to coup because of DEFCON restrictions. See, if he'd done this last turn, I could, when I had the infamous Japan surrenders early thing, where I was allowed to, well, then DEFCON couldn't go to 1 either, but I could have cooed him in the Middle East. But see, I'm not allowed to coup in the Middle East when DEFCON is 2. And I can't coup in Asia when DEFCON is higher than 4, and I can only coup in Europe at DEFCON 5. So basically, I'm down to playing it for ops. So it does mean I get to play 1 op now, and then 1 more, then I can take ops on my turn, which sometimes you can use to leapfrog an unsafe area and skate into the battleground that you wanted to get to. I don't see any good places for me to do that. I think I'm just going to have to use the op somewhere I want 1 point and just concede that he made a good play, a play I entirely approve of, a high-rated Soviet player kind of play, which is he managed to play this for ops at the end of his turn when he hardly had to show me any cards, and just all I get for it is 1 op, and now he's not going to have this card, following him through the deck, stalking him and trying to kill him for the rest of the game. So here's where I give the China card back to him, and I'm going to try to use the whole I get 5 points when I play the China card in Asia thing, and we're just going to fill up the goodness. We're going to make Asia an American playground, an American lake, and okay, so he has to use the UN intervention just for 1 op, and he's establishing dominance in Europe to get ready. And then that brings us to our original plan, which is to excrete Vietnam revolt at the very end of the game, end of the turn, with Thailand and Laos, Cambodia already safely controlled to kind of contain him. And then his little 1 point operations bonus for the rest of the turn will not last very long at all, because it actually is the end of the turn as soon as we put down the last point of influence here. So we need to overprotect the UK, and the reason is that we know he's got the special relationship card, and NATO is in effect, and see, he could play that card to try to actually just to break, he could just stick 1 point into the UK, and if that broke control of the UK, then there wouldn't be a special relationship, and so we wouldn't get all the stuff. So we've got to make that one a little bit hard for him. Then we got 1 more point to just continue to spread in Asia for later. And so then he gets his little annoying thing. Nobody has any military ops, so nobody loses any. So count that as 2 points to the good for us. DEFCON to 3 in the reshuffle. Oh, look at the glorious hand. It's not a huge ops hand, but we got decolonization. We have captured both of his best event cards, and they are so going off to space. Decolonization in space. So what decolonization would do for him is it would let him put 4 brand new influence points anywhere in Southeast Asia or Africa. Now, we were kind of locking up Southeast Asia quickly. It wouldn't be super useful for him, but God, turning Africa red before we got anything there would be horrible. And knowing that he can't do it is awesome. And look, there's our old friend Containment, recently discarded to the blockade. So that's a good headline in a turn where every card is under 4 and they're all Opsy cards. We got De Gaulle too late to know, and he's just going to be an op card. We don't have to worry about it. I mean, it's, oh no, he gets more in France and we lose influence in France, so not going to be super important. The Arab-Israeli war would give him military odds, but he's not going to take Israel. He can't win because we control 2 friend countries and we control Israel. Controlling Israel counts as one of the countries for the die roll modifier. And then just a bunch of garbage events, basically. 5-year plan is fun to play with his hand if he doesn't have the China card and we know he's got CIA, but now he does have the China card and we know he doesn't have the CIA, so that's going to be ops. So mostly it's a lot of ops, and and with Containment it'll be even more ops. Containment is just seeming like the totally obvious no-brainer headline card here. So let's just see what he does. Okay, it's the Indo-Paki War. We knew he would probably try it if he got it, and he's going to hit India because he has a 1 in 6 chance of crushing us. Actually, a 2 in 6 chance, as it turned out, but we escape unscathed. And now he has failed a coup in Panama. So, winning the Indo-Paki War it was good luck, but it was not shocking good luck. We were probably going to win that war. On a 1 through 4, we win that war. I would have loved to use the 2 points from Vietnam to fill up Burma and, lower his die roll modifier 1 more, so he had to roll a 6. But because I knew that was a possibility, but then he would have done the UK thing, and I want to make that a real liability card for him because we know with absolute certainty that he has that card right now. So anyway, meanwhile, he did make a pretty terrible die roll on Panama, and I don't know, I might have personally gone ahead and cooed Iran to try to establish, get back in control of the Middle East, because Middle East, card is right back in there, and if it comes around right away and he doesn't have domination, he's missing one of his greatest scoring areas. But, I can see Panama easy, go ahead and get into Central America because it's going to, be in play next turn. It was fine, and so, he had one generically with the odds, but not good for him die roll, and one, really terrible die roll. Although he didn't put a 2-point coup is not putting a huge effort into the coup. To get in there, he probably still had to roll, I don't know, did he have to roll 4? 1, 2, 3. I had to roll 3. I think he been there for 1 point with a 3. So that's his turn. We got to decide what our first order of business is. Filling up Asia is not a huge priority right now because we already dominate and we already have all the battlegrounds that we can get. And Southeast Asia comes next turn. So, we have a lot of influence. We might end up filling some of it. I guess I'd like to get some, now that DEFCON is 2, I'd like to get Africa kind of threatened and under control, because since I have a lot of influence this turn available, I need to make him suffer for that. So the plan here is this. I guess I need to use the De Gaulle card. And so if I resolve the De Gaulle event first, then I lose 2 points of influence in France, and he gains 1, but I didn't have any in France, so I don't lose any. And then, ironically, I use 2 of the points to go into France now that it's safe. And the reason to go there is not as much to, someday take France. Although, I am creating the threat of breaking control at the end of the turn and then headlining Truman Doctrine on the next turn, which he's going to have to. So he's going to have to play another one in France. But I'm touching Algeria, Algérie Française, and I'm threatening to go over there and make that one of my little vassal states, which would be good for me. And then meanwhile, I am racing through Southern Africa to kind of grab the little onesie controllers before he can. All right, so he has a big bonking card. All right, and he says none shall pass. He has gone ahead and plugged up Algérie Française, and he has plugged up Turkey, so he is, he doesn't want me to break his dominance with my little prod into Greece. I was thinking if I stuck one into Greece, then if he didn't do anything, I could grab Greece and Turkey all in one card, and, then I'd be back in the resisting domination of Europe game, but he, saw right through that. I wished I could grab... If I could have grabbed Greece and Turkey all with that one card, because I wasn't touching Turkey. If I could have done it all at once, I would have done it all at once. But I didn't see any point in putting 2 points into Greece just to have him do this. So I created the threat, and, it's E5, E4, E5. It's, you do the minimum amount of threat, and you make him respond. He had to use 2 influence to do that, so okay, we made him do it. But it's sometimes a little bit of a chess game. So he saw what we were doing. He can't do anything about Southern Africa yet. He'll get a coup at the beginning of next turn. But that's why I want to be in both of the countries. Hopefully, so both Zaire and Angola, so that hopefully he can he can usually only coup one of those, and that way he doesn't plug me up in South Africa. So what to do? Since we don't have a lot else to do, let's go ahead and get some of our space obligations dealt with. And if decolonization successfully goes into space, we're using an alternate space race, we won't be able to send a second card. But anyway, we want to get, we don't want to have a bunch of obligations in our hand at the end of the turn, when he might do something we need to respond to. So let's just, use a free turn where he's not threatening. He responded to our threat, not we responded. We're not having to respond to a threat he made because he didn't have enough ops to also create a threat to us. So this is a good time to just ditch this horrible card. Goodbye, see you on turn 7 or 8 or never. That would be fantastic. Goodbye, decolonization. And so D-Stall can go next turn. All right, so yeah, there's that special relationship card, and we essentially forced him to space it. They apparently aren't having much luck getting anything to go into orbit either. Their roll fails, but that's no biggie. And we won't see that card again for a long time, but we made him space it. So, what next? How about, let's see, let's just fill up some Asia. We're immune to the Arab-Israeli war, and he already has 4 ops, military ops, so we're not gaining or losing any points on that. He cannot fail even with a 6 on the Arab-Israeli war. So, yeah, nice try, Arabs. Didn't happen. Okay, and here's Fidel. Fidel as the event. So it's, okay, I can clarify that. So, Fidel as the event to take control of Cuba is a good play for him on turn 3. And of course, he's gotten rid of the CIA, so he doesn't have to worry about having ops and, in the Americas. And he already has some in Africa. I would normally be saving this for the very last action round, so that I have the least amount of time to respond to him, because Cuba touches my superpower power, and that means that I can actually do a realignment roll at no modifier. I mean, he gets +1 for having the most influence in the country. I get +1, or -1, whatever, for having a touching power. So that means it would be even die rolls. If I manage to, if I just bang off a bunch of realignment rolls and manage to get some good ones, I can just nuke him out of Cuba, and he really doesn't have many ways back in. So see, I would be as him. This might actually be the first play that he has made this game that I think is a possibly exploitable mistake. And I'm thinking about investing a big card in realignment. So if I go realignments, then I have to use the whole card. I can't play any influence. I have to use it all for realignments. But which also kind of compounds what he's done here, because he knows I've got containment active, which means my cards are worth more ops. So I could take 4 realignments against Cuba, and man, my chances are good. My chances are good of in 4 rolls knocking him out there, and I feel like that's actually. We've actually accomplished most of what we need to do with ops right now. If I move into more places in Africa, he's just going to coup them. I mean, I could fill up South Africa if I have time. But yeah, I'm thinking of investing a big card. Let's just go ahead and here we go. Realignments in Cuba. Boom! Oh, that was maybe I didn't need as big of a card as I thought. Just a 6-1 right on the first roll, and he is gone. And that is a slightly awkward situation for the remaining realignment rolls, because the only legal place for us to use them is in Algeria, where he's at +2. So, hey, maybe we can knock him out. Like 8% chance or 16% chance of knocking something out per roll. So we'll take, we get 3 more rolls and nothing happens whatsoever. So he gets to add his Europe influence. I mean, that was just essentially a freebie for us, because he had, he's got a lock in Europe, right, in Eastern Europe especially right now. So big deal. Okay, so Defectors, an event we would have liked to have in our hand, but you can't get everything, and he so he's over-controlled France, as we expected him to do. He over-controlled South Africa, or South Korea, so we don't try any funny business. Not that I was really planning to, he just probably didn't have anywhere else he wanted an op. He does have to give us the 1 point for playing Defectors, so hey, we'll take it. Right. We can't send anything else into space, so D-Stall is just going to sit there. Maybe we should fill some things up. Should I fill South Africa? Should I just start filling up Asia more to get ready for a big Southeast Asia scoring? Or should I get involved in, Central America is going to start scoring next turn. Or should I toughen up Iran so that he has a harder time cooing it? Yeah, there's some options. So if the Central America card comes next turn and we started getting a presence, and see, now that we've wiped him out of Cuba and we know he's not just going to be in there all touching our superpower, I like the idea of putting some pressure. And, that'll probably draw his coup over there. And if it draws his coup over there, it draws his coup away from Africa, where I'm much more vulnerable because the stability ratings are only 1. And so, he's just practically guaranteed to take one over if he coups one of them. But if he's like, oh no, he's going to establish Central American domination, then he might make a harder coup, and then maybe he'll fail, which I'm in favor of. All right, so interesting. He has a point into Thailand, which, puts him on the borderline where, let's say next turn, he continued to have the China card, then, he would be able to take it over, because the extra point to break the control would be done by that little 5th bonus China point, and so he could actually go all the way to control of Thailand from me controlling it. If I don't get that back, plus he could start leaking into Indonesia, which I don't really want. So he's probably trying to force me to put some of my influence over there, and, fair enough. I don't know what else he probably agonized over what he could even do with influence right now, since the board is the old world board is so locked up. So I am going to overprotect Thailand and lock down Indonesia so he doesn't leak into there. It'll eventually be worth a point. So, a point of influence to get a point is reasonable-ish. And I'm going to fill the last point into Costa Rica, because that gives me one battleground and one non-battleground. It wouldn't be a lot of points. It's like, well, since it doesn't have a presence, I guess it'd be 4 points. So that's something. I'd take 4 points. In Central America, if the scoring card comes up before he finds a way to leak in there. So ways he can leak in there, well, he blew his wad early. See, like, none of the cards he played made me think, boy, I would have played that after I needed to play that after Fidel. See, I think that was a mistake. And when you get a mistake from a highly rated player, you need to exploit it, because he may not ever make another one again. So let's see. So he's going to get 2 points from we never got military ops, because there was nowhere we were legally allowed to coup without blowing the world up ever, and we didn't get to run a war, and he got plenty of ops. So we're going to lose 2 points, but we're up by 5, and so being up by 3 as the Americans at the end of the whatever it's called, the mid-war, at the beginning of the mid-war, at the end of the early war, which is it's not the beginning of the end, it's the end of the beginning, or something like that. So saith Churchill. But what I'm saying is being up by 3 points rather than down by, say, 7 is good. And as the mid-war begins, we see our first hand of mid-war cards, and I believe I hear the Russian national anthem in the distance, and that means it is homework time. What do you think of this hand? What would you do with it? What would you headline? And what would your plan be for the rest of the turn? It's always good to have actually a plan at the beginning of the turn for how, if everything goes the way you think it might go, what are you going to do with each card? When are you going to do it? What's the best time of the turn to use each card? So start learning, as a matter of becoming a better player, start learning to stop and make a plan at the beginning of headline phase before you just blast something out. So tell me in comments what you would do, and we will see you next time on Twilight Struggle, Play the Expert.